Well, thank you, Stuart, for inviting us here to Applegate to find out about all things apprenticeships. First of all, I'd like to say it's an absolute pleasure to be in a beautifully sunny North Devon, a glorious day for us to get together, and also to find out more about what you've been up to in relation to apprenticeships here at Applegate, because you have a very great story to tell. But first of all, perhaps as the Chief Executive of Applegate, you could just tell us a bit about what Applegate actually is.
Certainly, and thank you for joining us, Ali. Applegate's an online procurement service. We're used by businesses, charities, government organisations to get quotes for the goods and services they need to purchase. We've developed with Exeter University an artificial intelligence system which is able to identify which suppliers are likely to be able to fulfil their needs, so we can match those so they can respond to those quote requests.
Goodness me, it all sounds very technical, I have to say. I should imagine you need quite a diverse skill set amongst your staff to be able to meet all of those different needs.
Very much so, technical of course, but equally marketing, strategy, HR, finance, service, all the full gamut of skills that any business needs.
So what size team do you have here at Applegate?
We've got about 30 people, and one of the challenges, of course, in a location such as this is finding the great people that any business needs to succeed and thrive.
Absolutely. You mentioned the collaboration with Exeter University. Obviously, you're on the edge of a campus here for Petrock College. Do you make use of that particular relationship in terms of securing potential team members?
Absolutely so. So we're fortunate to have good relationships with Exeter University, Plymouth University and Petrock College, three key educational establishments for us. And with Petrock and Plymouth jointly, we run a management degree apprenticeship programme, the CMDA programme, which we've now got 9 students on. As I said, it can be a real challenge to bring talented people into a business here. Devon has the highest employment rate of the whole of the UK, incredibly higher even than London. And so enabling us to make a great proposition, a great offer to school leavers and college leavers to join us is critical, and the partnership with Petrock and Plymouth is vital to that.
I suppose it begs the obvious question, in light of all that, why North Devon?
It's not perhaps the most obvious place to run a technology business, yet having said that, there are some incredible businesses, marketing agencies, technology businesses located here. And there are some real advantages. A much lower cost base than the centre of London, for example, but also a great environment, very literally a great environment, which is good for staff welfare. Many of us, like myself, are able to walk to work, in my case with the dog, but also good for creativity. You know, getting down to the beach or up onto the moor provides perhaps more space for thinking and reflecting than being stuck on the central line at 7 o'clock at night or whatever it may be.
Yes, I think anyone who experienced that pain would understand exactly what you're saying. That's really, really helpful and gives a lot of insight as to how Applegate functions. Could you perhaps tell us just a little bit about how the company's structured? You mentioned 30 staff, but sort of how do you have discrete teams who work on specific things, or is it everybody getting an opportunity to work on lots of different things?
It's a mix of both. I mean, we have the standard sort of different departments that any business has, but also work very much across those different teams on, for example, designing new back-end services for the site at the moment. That brings together people from the marketing side, client support, technology, finance, really across the business to work collaboratively on that design process.
Fantastic. It sounds a great opportunity for everybody. And I suppose that very neatly segues into just talking a little bit about the role that apprenticeship programme plays here at Applegate. You mentioned that you have a number of apprentices already on the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship. Sort of, how does that work? What does it look like?
Yeah. So we've got 9 spread across 4 of the 5 years of a complete end-to-end foundation and honours degree apprenticeship programme combined. And it's really hard now to imagine the business without the degree apprentices here. It answers the need that every business has. How do you attract talented people into the business? And it enables us not just to attract, but to develop and to retain these great young people who in a very short period of time, make a real difference, huge difference to the organisation. And the programme, because it focuses on management as a transferable skill, also allows people to join at 18, 19, 20, possibly their first experience of a business environment, not knowing exactly where they want to specialise. They can learn the broad skills that they'll need in whatever role they do, and then over time find their niche, be it in finance, in technology, marketing, wherever it may be.
No, that's fantastic, and the transferable skills, absolutely, that chimes, and I'm sure will chime with a lot of people when they're looking at how they approach their apprenticeship programme. How did you set up the apprenticeship programme? What sort of process did you go through?
Very much at the suggestion of, in fact, one of the assistant principals here at Petrock. We were talking about work experience programmes and so forth, and it was his recommendation that the degree apprenticeship could be the best way to bring in the really great raw talent that we needed. We didn't need people particularly with experience or with a particular set of qualifications. We needed people, however they got to this point, who had that raw ability within them that, together with the education partners at the college and university, we could form and shape into the great performers they are today.
So how many did you start off with in the first instance?
We had 3 in the first intake, and I'm delighted to say that they were applying now 4.5 years ago, and all 3 of them are still with us, which is great. And again, to see, just looking at those 3, how they've developed and gone on through that time. Joanna now leads for us in terms of recruitment and human resources. Claire is working within our finance team, dealing with a whole broad range of different activities, from credit control to management accounting and broader strategic activities. And John both provides technology support, but also runs our marketing automation system, which is still a fairly cutting edge area for many companies, and great that whilst still on the programme, he can be running that and does so extremely well.
So Stuart, it feels from what you've said that actually you've got, for a small company based in a rural location, actually quite a high percentage of apprentices compared to sort of non-apprentices. How does that work?
All our colleagues, whether apprentices or otherwise, have equal value in what they bring to the company. But when it comes to bringing people in afresh, it's a real challenge here to find the recruits to bring in. And what we found is that offering a pathway for people leaving school or college provides that route to bring in the raw talent, but not only to recruit it, but also to develop it by providing a pathway with clear understanding of the different level standards that one should expect to reach at different stages. It allows me as an employer to understand and shape what level the development of the degree apprentices should be as they progress through.
So it feels like you're talking about a really close collaboration with the sort of providers to make sure you've really co-designed a programme that nurtures the individual, but also gives Applegate exactly what they need from those individuals as they move through.
Absolutely, and it's been a real positive for me that our educational partners, Petrock College and Plymouth University, have taken this so seriously and have been so adaptable, really paying attention to our needs as an employer, but also the needs of the apprentices as well. And those combined together, I think it really works to deliver the programme as it should be. An apprenticeship shouldn't be about the employer saying once a week their colleagues go off to study and that's that. It should be equally the responsibility of the employer as of the educational partner to take responsibility for the development of the individuals, to help nurture their development.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree. And I think certainly from what I've seen and colleagues who have sort of reported back, that is one of the things that a lot of businesses struggle with, is getting that balance right and not seeing it as the traditional model of an apprenticeship. How has it been actually for your apprentices and for the company actually making this degree element work? I mean, that is a lot of work on top of a day job.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of work for the degree apprentices to undertake, and I certainly hear at times when a major assignment is due, signs of pressure and frustration and all the rest of it, but they do incredibly well, and all of them hit those deadlines sometimes, by 1 second, but they put the work in on top of a whole load of other activities as well. Captaining a local netball team, doing social media for a charity which has been set up in memory of someone who took their own life to support the mental health of young people. So it's real testimony to them as individuals and as a group that they can do their jobs, and which they do brilliantly, undertake the educational side, and do an incredible range of things outside of work as well. Very
inspiring, and I think sort of that work-life sort of social impact element is just such an important part of apprenticeships, and it's great to hear that that's happening. How did you set about choosing the providers that you're working with, Petroc and the University of Plymouth?
Petroc is the local college of further and higher education for us here in Northern Devon, and it was really important to us that the apprentices were able to study locally. So that in many ways was a given for us, and from there that brought in Plymouth University because Plymouth are the university partner to Petroc. So it was a natural choice, but also one we have no doubts over. The quality of teaching has been superb, the attention, the support that's been provided. For example, understanding the gathering of evidence for the endpoint assessment, plenty of support and coaching as my colleagues have gathered their huge thick ring binders and digital files of a huge amount of evidence. I did see one of the assessors look in horror at quite how much material he was going to have to go through. They were really comprehensive in gathering that. So it's a natural choice, but it's also one I think we'd make even if there were other alternatives around, because it's worked so well.
Absolutely, and it's great to see local providers being able to deliver a high quality product.
Yes.
And offer to local employers. In terms of choosing the Chartered Manager degree apprenticeship, you referenced earlier that you were wanting that sort of transferable skill set, but what drew you to the CMDA, as we like to call it?
Really, I think it is about that transferability side, and about keeping choice and options open to people who may be working for literally the first time in their lives, or the first time other than a holiday work, bar work, that type of typical student activities beforehand. If you've never worked in a business before, you've heard the words marketing and finance, maybe the words human resources, maybe not. You really don't know what those mean in practice. You don't know what those jobs entail. So for me to say, before you join, you must decide, do you want to study a digital course, a marketing course, an HR course, just would not be feasible, wouldn't be practical. This way, it enables the students to come in, and for all of them to have a common framework in the skills, the values which underpin management, whether you are managing teams and activities in human resources, in finance, in technology, in marketing, or anywhere else. So it enables those core building blocks to be brought up, with also degrees of specialisation, so that you can choose the optional courses which are to your interest especially. There's a further advantage. I mentioned we had 9 people on the programme, and particularly now we've got 4 years worth coming through. They can help each other. 4th years can help 3rd years, 2nd years can help 1st years, and it gives that community that I remember when I was a student at residential university myself. Part of the notion of it was that the community of students could help each other as much as the tutors and lecturers, and that was why there was the traditional arrangement around a staircase to try and encourage the collaboration and interaction going back centuries. That can be lost if you have one person studying HR, one person doing finance, and none of them have got any ability to collaborate or share experiences or say, have you considered this book or whatever else it may be that would help. So running a single program, particularly as an SME ourselves, really, I think it's the only way to go. And the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship provides that breadth and the essential building blocks which make it applicable to all.
Brilliant. One of the challenges that we hear cited quite regularly, particularly because the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship is a big apprenticeship, there's a lot to encompass within it. How do you make sure that the people have the opportunities to undertake all the different aspects they need to be able to successfully achieve their apprenticeship?
I think again this comes back to, as employer, you have to take your responsibility seriously for the development of the individuals. I was going to say equally with the education provider, but actually I'd go beyond that. I'd say, to my mind, it lies supremely with the individual themselves, of course, but second to that, with us as the employer, to work with the individuals, to support them. I have pinned on my notice board the 5 pages of the framework it's a huge intricacy to try and understand and keep up to date with, okay, John's got great experience here but hasn't yet seen this side, whereas Joanna is really strong in that bit but she hasn't done so much of the project management or whatever it may be. So I think that is important, and that's another point actually where having a single unified programme helps. I'm not sure I have the mental capacity to get my head around 5 different apprenticeship frameworks. They're sizable beasts, but if you've got your head around one, then you can apply that to each of the individuals as they come through.
And what sort of impact are you seeing with the apprentices in the workplace on other members of staff? I mean, they are equal, absolutely, but are you seeing that sort of cross-collaboration amongst the whole workforce as opposed to sort of the community of apprentices?
Absolutely, and there are various different sort of project teams, as it were, where you'd see different people tending to collaborate, work together, and so you'd have Tori and Kelly, who are not apprentices, working very closely with Leah, who is, Kat, who's not an apprentice, working very closely with Jack, who is, and there are lots of those different groupings through, so they fit together seamlessly, and I think there's a lot of pride across the business in other staff, those who've been here longer as well, in what the apprenticeship achieves and delivers.
I see. Well, you talk about the impact they have. What sort of things have you seen happen as a result of the apprenticeship programme?
It's hard, really, to know where to start. It's so broad. We get fresh marketing ideas very frequently, different approaches and campaigns there. We have suggestions for changes to recruitment and training, which we take through and deliver. We actually had at a recent board meeting, I got overruled by my non-executive directors that they thought a suggestion from an apprentice, which I didn't want to go ahead with, they thought was a very good idea and we should go ahead. So it literally, that's the impact we can have, that they're able to make their case to a board chairman and make their case, fight their corner and have their argument win out.
Fantastic. It's great to see such tangible evidence of the impact they're having. I'd like to turn now to, we've already sort of referenced the rurality, we're in North Devon. What's the economic environment like here in Devon? Does that play a part in your sort of approach to apprenticeships?
It plays a part both as an employer, but I think also, to my mind, this is really getting to the nub of why degree apprenticeships are not just important but essential. So Devon has a very high employment rate, as I mentioned earlier. It also has, by national standards, a very low rate of productivity. And here in North Devon, just 23% of school leavers go on to university, compared with 57% in parts of central London. So less than half the proportion. This is not because young people here are any less talented than the young people in central London. It's because often they have caring responsibilities for family members. Coming from farming families, they may have responsibilities on the farm which wouldn't make it viable for them to go away. Others, there's an expectation to earn when you reach 18. This provides a means whereby you can earn whilst you learn, in the famous cliche of apprenticeships. It provides the opportunity for incredibly talented young people to go on and study for a degree, which otherwise, in many cases, simply would not be possible. That would be irresponsible of us as a nation to deny them as individuals that opportunity, but it would also be wasteful of a huge amount of talent. The degree apprenticeship is, to my mind, the single best opportunity to provide social mobility, levelling up in the buzz phrase of the moment, to allow people from all parts of the country, not just those in fashionable suburbs, to study and to make the most of the potential.
Those are all incredibly powerful reasons why certainly the economic environment needs to be a key factor in apprenticeships now, but also going forward. Have you ever considered, I know you mentioned that it's good to have just the one standard that you're working with, and that keeps you very focused. As Applegate grows, do you think you can see the apprenticeship programme expanding further, perhaps taking on different subject matter?
I think there are a couple of things. We are just over a year away from the first cohort graduating off the honours degree programme. They've already graduated from the foundation degree, and that raises the question of where next,
yes.
Whether that is further apprenticeship programmes or different training. So in one case it might well be a CIMA or an ACCA course, so it could take different routes. We continue to expand in numbers. We're recruiting at the moment for September's intake. We have 3 places. We've had 165 applicants for those 3 places. So it certainly shows the demand is there from people wanting to take these programmes. And we're hardly a high-profile national employer, so to get that many applicants is wonderful, is brilliant, and shows how valued these courses are.
Absolutely. So you certainly wouldn't be one of the people who says there's an issue with the sort of the perception around apprenticeships.
Apprenticeships may often be outside the direct experience of many people in the policy field, because the better off half of the country will tend to have gone to residential university, will tend to send their children to residential university. What we see here is the reality of the more peripheral parts of the UK, perhaps, where that's not always an option, and where apprenticeships, as I said, really can be vital in terms of providing pathways for young people to do what they need. I do not see any logic in reducing the focus on apprenticeships, nor on degree apprenticeships. There's sometimes seems to be a sort of underclass view of apprenticeships, that you should get to a certain level and then stop developing, that you shouldn't go on to study for a degree. That seems to me appalling. It seems short-sighted in terms of making the most of the talent we have in the country, in terms of boosting economic development, and from a social point of view, it seems irresponsible in the extreme. Degree apprenticeships provide a vital route for people to make the most of who they are. I don't think any of our apprentices don't lack the talent to get a place at a Russell Group university. It's circumstances plus an appreciation that pedagogically, if you're doing an applied subject, you're better off learning it in an applied environment, which bring them to us. It costs less money for the taxpayer for someone to study for a degree this way. It's a better learning experience. They're paying taxes because they're earning whilst they're moving along. They're contributing to the economy. They're gaining real world experience. It aids social mobility. It aids levelling up. Really, this feels like doctors say about exercise. You know, if it was a pill, you just prescribe it all the time. I think the same, to my mind, is to be said for a degree apprenticeship.
So I'm just interested to explore a bit more about sort of your relationship with the Chartered Management Institute. Obviously, we've been talking about the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship. Just interested in your sort of thoughts around sort of what it's been like working with CMI, what, if any, benefit you feel there's been to that sort of added dimension to this particular apprenticeship programme.
So when we started, we were dealing obviously with the college and university, and CMI was a sort of an entity in the background behind them. But kindly CMI have invited us to be involved in a number of events over the time since, and we've had the opportunity to access the materials provided by CMI, and all of that has been helpful as we've developed the programme further. I think beyond that, a really vital role to my mind that CMI plays is communicating the value of degree apprenticeships, and I think really this goes beyond the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship alone, because I think CMI are probably the strongest force out there conveying how degree apprenticeships overall can bring benefit to individuals, to employers, to society, to the economy, and I do think that is vital work, and so I'm very glad and very grateful for the campaigning work that CMI does there.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it is obviously our passion, and it's what we believe in. So we know that a management apprenticeship at every level will, you know, bring reward to the individuals and to the economy longer term. Stuart, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear about everything that's been going on at Applegate. I wish you very sort of continued success, shall we say, with the next cohort as they start, and look forward to seeing those apprentices graduate and us being able to celebrate all of their achievements.
Thank you.